Welcome back to She Rises Daily, Emerging You in 10. I'm your host, Doc Shelley, here to bring you your daily dose of inspiration, empowerment, and growth. Have you ever made a decision you knew was right and then felt absolutely terrible about it? You finally said no, and then you felt guilty. You ended something that was not working and still grieved it. You had the difficult conversation and spent the rest of the day wondering if you should have just kept your mouth shut. You chose yourself and felt selfish. And suddenly, because the decision didn't bring the wave of relief you expected, you started questioning it. Maybe I made the wrong choice. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I should go back and fix it. Here's something I think we need to talk about more. The right decision doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels awful, not because it's wrong, because something can be necessary and still come with a cost. And today, I want to talk about why we need to stop using immediate emotional relief as the only evidence that we have made a good decision. Feelings tell you about the experience, not necessarily about the decision. We have been taught to pay attention to how things feel, and we should. Feelings need interpretation. You can feel guilty because you've done something wrong. You can also feel guilty because you've done something different, especially if you're accustomed to accommodating other people. You can feel grief because you've lost something valuable. That doesn't necessarily mean you should have kept it. You can feel afraid because you're making a dangerous choice or because you're making an unfamiliar choice. Same emotion, very different information. That's why, how do I feel about this is an important question. It can't be the only question. We also need to ask, what is this feeling actually telling me? Good decisions can create real loss. This is where I think we sometimes oversimplify growth. We love the language of letting go, moving forward, choosing yourself, setting boundaries, changing direction. And sometimes those choices cost us something that we have genuinely valued. You can leave the right job and miss the people. You can end an unhealthy relationship and still really care for the person. You can set a necessary boundary and grieve the closeness you once had. You can turn down an opportunity and wonder about the life you might have lived if you said yes. Those feelings are not evidence that the decision was wrong. They are evidence that the decision mattered to you. Two things can be true. You can know something needed to change and still grieve what the change cost you. We don't have to turn every ending into something terrible in order to justify leaving it. Sometimes something was good and it's still no longer right for you. And I have seen this so many times in coaching. Someone makes a decision they've wrestled with for months. They've thought about it. They've talked about it. They've looked at every angle. And eventually, they finally make the decision. And then they come back and say, I thought I'd feel better after I made that decision. And that's when I'll sometimes ask, why did you expect the right decision to be painless? Because somewhere along the way, many of us learned that clarity should feel peaceful. And sure, sometimes it does. And sometimes clarity tells you exactly what you need to do. While our emotions are still catching up to what you know, you don't have to invalidate the sadness. You don't have to talk yourself out of the guilt. You don't have to pretend you're excited. You can simply acknowledge, this is difficult, and also, I still believe this was the right decision. Those two statements can coexist. Don't make your feelings prove your decision. This is where we can get ourselves into a little bit of trouble. We make a hard decision, then immediately start monitoring ourselves. Do I feel relieved yet? Am I happier? Do I miss them? Am I second guessing this? And every uncomfortable emotion becomes another piece of evidence in a case we're building against ourselves. Feelings don't move on command. Your decision can happen in a moment. Your nervous system probably needs a little longer. Your habits, they're going to need longer. Your identity may need longer. Your heart may need much longer. Don't require your emotions to immediately endorse a decision your wisdom took months to make. Give yourself time to catch up. Instead of asking, does this feel good? The better question is, does this fit? This connects back to something we've been talking about throughout the past few episodes: discernment. Instead of asking only, does this feel good? Try asking, does this align with my values? Does this protect something that matters to me? Does this reflect what I know now? Does this move me toward the life I'm trying to build? In other words, does this fit? Because good decisions aren't always comfortable decisions. Sometimes they're the decisions that allow you to remain aligned with yourself, even while you're uncomfortable making them. And that is a very different measure. Here's your reflection question. What decision have you been questioning because it hasn't felt as good as you expected it to? And if you stopped using discomfort as evidence that the decision was wrong, what would you see differently? And your power thought: don't require your emotions to immediately endorse a decision your wisdom took months to make. Some right decisions bring relief. Others bring grief. Some bring excitement. Others bring uncertainty. Some immediately feel like freedom. Others feel like loss before they ever feel like possibility. None of those emotions by themselves tell you whether the decision was right. Feel what you feel. Pay attention to it. Learn from it. But don't automatically hand it the authority to rewrite a thoughtful decision simply because the decision was difficult. Sometimes the right path still hurts. You can walk that path anyway. This week, if you find yourself second-guessing a difficult decision, don't immediately ask, do I feel better yet? Instead, ask yourself, knowing what I know now, does this decision still align with what matters most to me? If the answer is yes, give your emotions a little more time to catch up. They don't have to arrive at the same place on the same day. Thank you for joining me for another episode of She Rises Daily, Emerging You in 10. If today's conversation made you think of someone who's made a hard decision and is now wondering why it doesn't feel nearly as fabulous as all those inspirational quotes promised it would, please send them this episode. And until next time, remember, something can be difficult and still be right. You can miss what you left and still know why you left it. You can grieve what was and still choose what's next. The right decision doesn't have to feel good immediately to still be the right decision.